everyone. I am Ishita, and I'm here with another best selling author who believes that everyone can be a Krishna in their own capacity once they find their purpose. Lucky for us readers, she found her purpose in writing. I'm talking about the craftswoman behind bestsellers like Avishi, Mauri, Abhaya, and Rukmini, Miss Saiswaroopa Iyer. Welcome, ma'am. It is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you
So
so
thank
much.
you so much, Ishita. That was a flattering welcome and great to be on your show.
It is amazing to have you here, ma'am. And I have so many questions, so many things to learn from you. So I'm going to jump right in and start with the first question. So I've been really excited to know, ma'am, about the moment when you realized that you were meant to be a writer and not a venture capitalist. Did you have a smooth transition?
I wouldn't exactly call it a transition. It was more of a decision to focus rather because storytelling and writing were something which came in my upbringing, I should say. So I grew up hearing these stories of the itihasa, both the itihasas, Puranas, and I grew up, telling the stories to my younger cousins. That's duty and privilege when you are the oldest in your generation. So somewhere the academics had caught up. We were not meeting as a family as many times as we used to in childhood, and maybe that distance weighed in upon me. I could sense that, especially in my stint with that venture capital firm. It wasn't a job that I did not like because it's something when you meet startups, entrepreneurs, problem solvers, always positive minded in their approach, and every day you get to meet such people, talk to such people. So it's a great job to have, but at the same time, I couldn't help wondering, like, am I doing what my calling is? All these guys, they are giving up their careers, their high paying jobs, and working on what they really, really believe. And being in a venture capital means saying no 100 times more than saying yes, right? It's as difficult for us investors to say no, as it is for the entrepreneurs to hear no. So it used to kind of, so many, they hear so many rejections and yet keep working on what they really, really believe in. And that was when my husband had to move countries, and then that's when I thought, okay, instead of looking for another job and again starting like the same old grind and then staying unhappy, I should start doing what makes me happy and what makes me fulfilled, and what most importantly, it's about adding value to the world.
I also wanted to know this line, that everyone can be a Krishna in their own capacity once they find their purpose. So when I was reading Avishi, you had mentioned this line in the first few pages, and it struck a deeper chord with me. There are some lines by the authors that stay with you for a very long time. So this was one of them. I actually wanted to understand how did you recognize your purpose, and more importantly, how did you stick to it? So I'm sure there are many viewers who may have recognized their own purpose, but failures and doubts make it so difficult to keep going.
Yes, yes.
So how did you do it?
So one thing, yes, there are many who realize their purpose. You're absolutely right. First, that is, I'll say, half work, half done, which is a good news. But what will take us through the rest half of the journey, right, is not just passion or liking. It is the so sorry, I don't have a very interesting answer because the answer is boring here. It's the process. It's about showing up every day. So my first novel, Abhaya, that took me about three full drafts to, actually end up with the kind of draft which I could share with my editor, right? And in between approaching publishers and hearing no, all that kind of journey was also going on. And finally, by trial and error, but I ended up with a process that actually worked for me. I have written more about it in my smaller booklet series called Entrepreneur Collection, and the first book is called Write That Book. I have detailed that, the process. So that's when it is actually that moment or time when I realized that it's not, writing doesn't always happen over 100% inspiration. There are days where you need to force words out of yourself. and let the scene build. If the scene refuses to build, you have to build it with your words. And yeah, the writing may come out very, very bad, but you are moving forward. That matters. You can always come back and edit and take feedback and work on the craft. But that showing up and moving the needle forward, even on lean days, is very, very important, because that's where I think an artist's self respect, right, and self worth, rather. I respect myself if I am creating. So if I'm not creating, somewhere I lose respect for myself. I mean, this is a very subconscious process that goes on. So you don't create for over a while, you start doubting yourself, and then you start feeling, okay, I'm not meant to be this, and all that. All this because it's the that regime and that discipline is not being followed, right? So what helps, because it's not it's very easy to say sit every day and write, and it's very difficult to
Yeah,
practice
it
that.
doesn't happen. So
So yeah, so plotting the whole outline, then in a very boring manner, write under every chapter outline, write in detail what happens, which character should meet which character where, and what should the mood be. The mood changes, so it's like a writing a note to myself, right? How to write this chapter, how to write this chapter. It sounds very, it feels like taking the fun out of the whole discovery writing process. But ultimately, that's what helped me stick to my schedule, and before that, I have to take my own schedule seriously.
that's very true.
uh,
Writer respects when he's creating. Because, that's like gold.
we always find those blocks, and we are pushing against a block,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Which
very
means
true.
that we are already testing the end of our comfort zone. We are expanding our comfort zone, so it's good to have those points where you force yourself, except that we have to really force ourselves.
That's very true. And that is the most difficult part, forcing
Right.
ourselves back into the chair that, okay, you don't know what you're going to write, but you still
Yeah,
going to write whatever comes out
exactly.
of you. So, well, I'm really intrigued about how this journey began for you. How did you plan this journey of becoming an author? Once you had realized that, okay, this is my purpose, I want to do this. I'm asking this question from that point of view because I know that it is very difficult to leave a full-time job and go
Yes,
creative.
yes,
It
yes.
takes a lot of metal to do that. So, how did you prepare yourself for the period between leaving your job and then becoming an established author? That must have been a very challenging period.
So yes, I mean, this process helped, the process of creating, and there is also a process of building the network as well as building your audience, and staying relevant online, because we are not somebody who are born with an access to a lot of audience, right? Each of us have come from
Yeah,
humble backgrounds, and making it for ourselves. So but I think social media played a lot of positive role there. I mean, there are a lot of negative sides of social media, but let's talk about how it has democratized expression for people across levels, and also consistency pays there. So I did not exactly do it with a plan, but I think sticking to a couple of related themes on social media and being consistent and being authentic, that kind of builds a supportive audience around you. They're not followers,
yeah,
but they are somebody who would reply to your posts, sometimes agree, sometimes disagree. You kind of build a rapport with them, and you know that there is a dialogue going around you.
yeah,
You may end up having thousands of followers, but they may be these 20, 30, 40 people who are consistent in following up with you. They are the actual, your first leg audience. They are the ones, I think, when I self published the first book, these are the people who bought it, whether they wanted to read the subject or not. They bought it because of the connect, and then it built from there, right? And sometimes sharing the writing journey as well, sharing about the writing blogs, sharing about how I'm writing, the word count sometimes, just to keep it. So last Monday, I was at 30,000 words. Maybe by next Monday, at least I should go some 3,000, 4,000 words ahead. So it just forms a kind of a rhythm, right? It shouldn't become too much of a pressure. All of us go through bad times, but I think somewhere it also helps accountability when we hold ourselves accountable, so that we make sure we stick to that schedule. as well as the world that's around us, they know that we are putting this effort, and a part of them, they know what are the kind of pitfalls we have faced, and somewhere the journey of our own writing, when it becomes public, I guess uh, the readers also feel that connection to us.
That's very true, ma'am. Ultimately, you really want that, group, no matter how big or small it may be, but people who eventually turn loyal to you, loyal to your words that you're writing. And I'm sure that must feel really, like a seal of
That way,
favor.
it was a blessing. I would say it was a total blessing.
Yeah.
And the other nice part of it was, though I focus on women characters, I would say my the a huge chunk of support that I get is from my male readers, because at least the beta readers and friends who read, and they give a lot of their critique or even appreciation. It lends a lot of a sense of completion to the whole narrative.
Since you mentioned beta reading, I wanted to understand one thing. Whom would you rather approach to get your manuscript beta read? A friend or a professional beta reader? What's your process like for that?
Here, this is a little, it's a tricky decision here, because the friend who reads it, they should know the dynamics of the genre. They need not be professional, in pinpointing. It's good if they are, but somewhere you need a objective feedback, right? Not a very vague feedback like, hey, this is not working here. I don't know why. Though that's a good clue, but the artist's ego, right? It takes a hit when, a very vague feedback is given,
Yeah,
right?
very true.
So the more clinical the feedback is, the more objective the feedback is, the better are the chances that we can fine hone it. So it can be somebody who has read a lot of books in the genre. One, it can be somebody who is also a writer. So mostly once you are two or three books into the market, right, I think you end up building this kind of a peer support network where, because I can be really objective and very positively critical when I'm reading my author friends, I may not have the same objectivity towards my own manuscript. So, you can trade favors that way.
I think we have to be lucky to have those sort of set of friends who have interest in this genre that we are writing about, and then who are ready to, pour that time into actually going through it from a critique point of view. That
Yes.
okay, this works, this does not work.
But otherwise, there are professional editors who do it for money,
Yeah.
and I would say it's a worthy investment.
Very little is known about the women that you have written about, especially like Avishi and Rukmini. So, how do you research for your books? Do you combine fiction and fact to make a great story?
Yes, yes. Always see, we in the Indian context, we have something called kavya, right? So, okay, so from a very, very Indian context, there is Veda, right? That's called as Prabhu Samhita, which means Veda tells you what is right and what is wrong, like a king, from a sense of authority,
Okay, okay.
right? Now, I don't know what are your, constraints there, but this is right and this is wrong. Then comes Itihasa, that's Ramayana and Mahabharata. They are like, in the modern parlance, like a case study where we know what is right, what is wrong, but taking always the right choices comes at a cost, and happens what happens when there are two wrong choices to make. The Itihasa is called Suhrit Samhita, which is a friend saying what is wrong and what is right, while understanding our, the weak side of us, right? Then comes the Kavya, which is called Kanta Samhita. So Kavya tells us what is wrong and what is right, like a wife or a lover, right? In a
Okay.
more intimate way. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of rasa, the emotional connect which Kavya connects on, and that's what the modern fiction, which focuses on the Itihasa Puranic landscape, also has to keep in mind is that yes, there are a lot of creative liberties which can be taken, but as long as it drives some value.
Honestly, I've never delved bit deeper into how the Vedas, can guide us in our journey as a human being, as an author, especially. But I think this is a very beautiful way, the way you have put it. And thank you so
No,
much for sharing.
that's a known knowledge. I haven't come up with it, but we just have that instruction in the whole spectrum of emotional availability is what
Mm.
I'm saying. So, Abhignya Nishakuntalam, for instance, Kalidasa wrote it. He has taken tremendous amount of creative liberty from the way Shakuntala is mentioned in Vyasa Mahabharata. In fact, I think we would, in the modern period, we would connect more with Vyasa's Shakuntala than Kalidasa's Shakuntala because she comes across as a very strong woman there who can stand up to the king, speak her mind, and even deliver soft threats. As opposed to Kalidasa's Shakuntala, the way the Nataka was prevalent in Kalidasa's time, the hero heroine were molded to suit those archetypes. Nataka or the drama is there to deliver a certain emotional connect,
Mm.
which is why. So the same way novel has a certain purpose as a standalone, independent of its subject or a trope or a genre. A novel has a certain purpose, and then itihasa has a certain purpose. So I would say it's a well a worthy exercise to reconcile these both and mix liberty with fact in a judicious, in a more conscious way, rather than an entitled way.
I think now that I understand, the way you approach a story, I think I can relate it to all the characters that I've read about from your books. Such strong women. And obviously there was this eternal battle between right and wrong, and I think the way you portrayed these women battle the wrong. So I think it's amazing. So you had mentioned that at times one has to force a writer has to force himself to write, even if that person has hit the writer's block, but just write. So what about the schedule, ma'am? Do you stick to a schedule, or do you pick a pen and whenever inspiration strikes?
It's very hard to, write whenever possible. Though that, I mean, I would really envy people who can, write whenever possible, kind of. But as I said, the plotting helps us stick to the schedule when we have the whole plot and also the chapter outline, right? You know what happens in each chapter. Yeah, you can change it. Somewhere after right 40% down, you feel that this is not exactly adding to the rhythm of the, whatever has been written till now. We are always free to change it with our story, right? Novel has a lot of emotional elements. It has a variety of emotional elements. Somewhere there is a battle scene, somewhere there is a romantic scene, somewhere there is a philosophical scene, somewhere there is a whole conflict happening. It also, our mood or inspiration may not be following the same rhythm as the novel is following. But when the plot is ready, I think we can choose according to what we are capable of writing for the moment.
Right.
We don't have to exactly write it in a linear manner. Many young writers get shocked when I tell them that you don't have to, write it after chapter 4. You can go to chapter 12 and then 25 and come back to 7 and do that. Of course, writing is going to be slightly painful because somewhere if you have killed a character in chapter 7 and need him back alive in 15, you have to take care of certain things, very crudely put. But it's a lot of work to make that make sure that connectivity exists. But then we know that somewhere our subconscious mind knows that it is a finite job. When you have a draft of 300 pages, right, finally if you have produced it, you can pinpoint where are the issues, and each issue can be tackled, rather than you don't know that the draft is going to end on a 300 page. Always the effort will look infinite, and that is going to weigh you down. So always look at finishing the first draft, however bad the writing is, however kind of forced it feels, or not complete it feels, but just do it with the first draft, and only then come towards fine honing it, because we can never improve an unwritten draft, right?
That's very true. Yeah, you have to first pour it all out, and I think
Yes,
that
yes.
is why they say that never edit your first draft. just
Huh.
put it all out and
Yes,
then
yes, yes, yes.
go
So
back.
there are writers who do it, who edit the whole written part before they come to the next part. So that way they claim, the whole draft has been edited some 15 times by the time, they actually complete it.
Mm.
I don't know how they manage it. I'm not one of them.
For me, if I went back to editing first before completing, the flow would break.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly.
So once I'm in the flow, once the story is coming out of me, I have to just get it on the paper first. So, yeah, and so ma'am, of course, once we have edited, the biggest question about getting published, that comes into the picture, and that is another set of challenge altogether. And there
Huge
is this
challenge.
eternal tussle between self-publishing and traditional publishing. Why did you choose self-publishing? Initially you were self-publishing over traditional publishing.
Yes,
Was
yes,
it an
yes.
easy decision to make?
It was a conscious decision, I would say, not a easy or a difficult decision. One thing is, I want to share something about the dynamics of the publishing world, the traditional publishing world, right? At the end of the day, they are businesses. They have employees. They have to, their priority is to pay their employees the salary, which is why they have to make that money to, stay in the market. So, from our position, we may be criticizing them that some kid of an actor who doesn't know English wrote something and they get published. We've been working on a literary masterpiece that keeps getting rejected and all that. So, somewhere they are forced to take decisions where the commercials work out for them, right? And now good publishers would make what you say, basket, right? They know what is going to sell thousands of copies, and in these days lakhs of copies, independent of the quality of writing. But that's what also supports them to publish maybe 5 6 new writers,
Right.
right? That way there is a limit of there is a limit to what they can publish. And some publishers have a certain, like, example, Rupa, who's published my Draupadi and Rukmini. The understanding that I get from Rupa is that they have gone really wide on all genres, and they have a very what do you say, ambitious project of having a library on every subject. So that's what I think, it comes across. Whether this topic is famous or not famous, or the time will come where every topic might need some deep diving. So in our own pace, we'll keep building a library,
Right.
right, and keep approaching writers. So with Rupa, they have approached me with topics. We discuss on whether it works for me or not. So I kind of am privy to their process of thinking, which is a bit more beyond just the market dictation. Right. Of course, the schedule of publishing may also depend on what the market needs. Now, I think a lot of war and all going on. There is a lot of clamor for books on some motivational books and some leadership lessons from military insights. And I think you go with this kind of a manuscript idea, there are high chances that you get accepted because the mood of the market is that way. But having said all this, so that's what the publishers also have an idea of what has to be published,
Mm.
right? So they themselves have a this one. So the acceptability rate for unsolicited manuscripts, right, is very less,
True.
which is why it always helps if the writer tests the market himself or herself. So self-publishing helps that way, and especially Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, it helps you go with almost zero investment, right? If you think that print is not required,
Mm.
let me just see how the early readers feel, and kind of get the feel of it before we you can go to some Notion or somebody to invest on a print run. So that way, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is most of this the crime thriller fiction and romance fiction writers, what they do is they keep writing at a very unrealistic pace. They come up with books like every 3 months, some every month.
Yeah.
And the Amazon algorithms work for them,
Mm.
right? And they produce with such a frequency that after a point of time they won't need a traditional publisher. I got an offer from Rupa after I published Avishi, but
Okay.
they wanted me to write on Draupadi. It's not to acquire my self-published books.
Yeah.
But somewhere they got convinced that I can write in this genre, and they wanted to first test the waters with more popular characters rather than unknown characters. So they have their own equations also. I think going self-published worked for me. So today I would call myself a hybrid author because, yeah, it's always good to understand what they need also.
Very true. It makes sense because at the end of the day, everyone has to be a salesperson once the book is
Yeah.
written. You have to push it to the market, to the publishers.
Yes, yes. And also there is a lot of logistics that the publisher faces, right? Which city to push more copies into, which stores will sell. If they don't happen to sell, do you take them back and push them to where they're being sold?
Yeah.
All this data is not as readily available, in India yet as maybe it is available in US or something like that. So only some bookstores, I think I can think of Padega India and a couple of very good bookstores in Bengaluru. They are very dynamic in sharing data, but otherwise, it's bookstores can become black boxes for the publishers.
Okay. And I think, these traditional publishers, from experience, they may be
Yes,
able to
yes,
guide us that, okay, this is the market that you want to push your book
yes.
in. This is the audience who would read your work. That brings me to my next question, which is about more of your books. I had read somewhere that you had once expressed the plan to write a historical series on the 11th century Telugu king Raja
Yes.
Narendra. So, can we expect to see that book out anytime soon?
Yeah, that kind of hit a slight research block where there are a lot of exciting untold stories of that era, the pre-Vijayanagara era, which 500 years before Vijayanagara. Rajaraja Narendra, because Telugu as a language was as a literary language, not as a spoken language, but as a literary language where classics can be written. It got cemented during Rajaraja Narendra's time, and Mahabharata started being getting written in Telugu during his time. So that way, in a literary, what happens in the field of literature is actually a reflection of what is happening in the real world of those times. So that's a important part of history that we should look at. And there is also this prediction of Mahabharata, right? Whenever I think, because that Sambhavami Yuge Yuge shloka, Mahabharata itself is a manifestation of that. So whenever one feels like, there has to be a change, huge change. It can be social, it can be political, it can be, spiritual. Mahabharata manifests in its own form. So whenever there is a Mahabharata written, there is going to be a change. That is what is the prediction. There's a lot of historical changes happened whenever Mahabharata was written in that
Really?
those classical form. So yeah, I hope to write it. I kind of conceived it as a trilogy of the three kings who are not in the same dynasty, who didn't even exist in the same timeline. So one is Raja Narendra, who was a Chalukya king. The other was Kakatiyas, during who Tikanna Somayaji existed and completed a good chunk of the Mahabharata. And the next is Vema Reddy, who's under whose time Mahabharata finally was completed in the Telugu Mahabharata. And in this period of time, there were different kinds of socio-political changes that happened in South India. So one was the Shaiva Vaishnava, the philosophical difference. Somehow it is kind of over magnified as some fights and things like that. But it was a more of philosophical exchange that was going on. And there was another philosophical exchange that was happening between Jainism and Hinduism as such,
Okay.
right? And then came the Islamic conquest, and the whole social tone changed after that,
Okay.
right? And the Mahabharata itself reflects these changes. I'm talking about the Andhra Mahabharata. The literary aspects, the kind of metaphorical aspects used in the text, right? It
Yeah.
changes. So that was I was hoping to highlight all that in this trilogy, maybe. So let me see.
I think you've set such a profound ground for this trilogy to come. I mean, I cannot wait to have this trilogy in my hand. So I really wish you luck.
Thank you so much. And this would be the first time I'd be attempting on male protagonists.
I wish you luck for that, ma'am, and I
Thank
really
you, thank you.
hope that you're able to write it very soon, and we are able to buy a copy very soon, because
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
this is again, these may maybe one of the characters that people know very little about. So I think it is really needed, and what you just shared, especially about the Mahabharata, every time it is written, you know it depicts what is happening in the society, how the society is changing. That is really profound. So yeah, I would love to read this, ma'am. And, would you like to share anything about next story that you're writing, and when
Yes,
will the book?
the next story is actually a novel on Devi Sharanyu or Sanya Devi,
Okay.
who is the wife of Lord Surya. So writing this story has been actually a shift from the last five books that I have written, because they were more or less written in a very human and rational plane. And here we are directly stepping into the realm of gods. So it was a very challenging as well as very revealing experience for me. It's about embracing somewhere, I think, while rationalizing the older stories, we are rejecting some form of the supernatural element, right? And here it required me to embrace it in its full. There's no way to rationalize the cosmic story. I'm really glad it happened, because there are a lot of concepts that we are not, as a population, are not aware of. Like, say, Indra changes every one manvantara, right? The time is cyclical, and Indra changes every manvantara. The gods change every manvantara, right? And what is a manvantara, right? So Sharanyu here is the mother of Manu. The Vaivashvata Manu, who is the Manu for, we are in his Manvantara, basically. So we are looking at the story of his mother and her marriage. And interestingly, she is the daughter of Tvashtra, who is understood as Vishwakarma in the Puranic parlance. But also, her mother is a is a Asura princess. She is the daughter of Prahlada.
Okay.
Yes. So there is also a Deva Asura conflict, but at a very, I think, again, there is a political conflict that is being seen. It's not exactly, the war that we see.
Right.
So that way, I think there's a lot that has been explored, which I couldn't explore in my earlier books. And even the order of the Shavatara is not the same as, what we usually think, the Matsya, Kurma, Varaha. It's not the same order, right? Somehow, some Darwinian order has come into our minds. So it's not the same order also.
I think, like you had mentioned, write whatever comes to you first. If after chapter 2 you want to write chapter 10, so that's okay. It's all about telling that story.
I think all going well with the publisher, it should be out in October or something. So, yeah,
Amazing,
yeah.
amazing, ma'am. All the very, very best to you. And I'm sure everyone watching this right now would be intrigued and looking forward to October now. It would be really interesting because Avishi, Rukmini, they were, after all, humans. But now you're moving on to celestial beings. So it's a different subgenre in the same
Yes,
genre. But
yes, that's what I realize how different it is, to be in that balance with the whole Panchabhuta, with the elements, the elementary form of universe, to actually be capable of magic, which can change the destiny. It's not easy,
that's very
right?
true. I think the whole dynamic of right and wrong, that goes to a different level when you're writing about
So
celestial
totally different.
beings.
The power itself goes to a different level.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. So thank you so, so much, ma'am. It was very insightful to be talking to you. Thank you so much for taking out the time to catch up with me. Every single person watching this right now is going to have a key takeaway from this interview, this conversation that we had. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching this. And please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be back very soon with another bestselling author, learning more from their journey. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishita. It was lovely interacting with you. That's some great questions which I don't usually get asked. So I really, really enjoyed, delving and sharing everything, and all the best. I'll look forward for your other episodes also.